Hello everybody, SuziChoclat here from Talented Crafts. Today I am going to be experimenting with a few bits and pieces, and so thank you very much for joining me today, watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm experimenting with some tinfoil today. This is just regular tinfoil that you cook with. And I've just reeled a load off, and yeah, I'm going to have a play with some embossing folders. The reason why I am playing like I am is because of a lady called Tweety on Craft World. She did a card way back last year that I really loved, and I asked her how she did it, and she said it was tinfoil swiped with stays on, and it looked really sort of steampunk and really oldie worldy, and she's just posted it again, and so I said, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get my folders out and get some tinfoil and see what I can come up with. Well, first hurdle was my stays on was totally dry. My stays on has totally dried out, so I'm getting nothing from it whatsoever. So I had to adapt the idea somehow, and so I've just been trying other mediums. This was the first one I did, and so this is just a vintage rose embossing folder, and I have wrapped the tinfoil around a piece of paper, a piece of card, I think it's about 220 GSM, something like that. That's my white smooth card. I've just wrapped one layer of tinfoil around it and run it through the embossing folder through my Big Shot die machine, and then that's when I noticed my stays on wasn't working, and so I thought I would swipe it with some just some ordinary clear sticky ink. But I think the issue was this pad is really soft, and so as I swiped it, because of the softness of it, it went into all of the crevices and not just over the top of the roses. And so if you're going to have a go, make sure you've got a fairly hardish ink pad. And so I'm going to use my Versamark one next time. I just grabbed that one because it was on the top of the box, but that was a big mistake, because when I sprinkled it with the embossing powder, it just had absolutely covered it, and I only did it really lightly. And the other thing that I didn't realise was this black wow embossing powder that I've got. It's called Black Puff, but for some reason I never thought it was going to puff up. I just thought black puff, like a puff of black smoke, is why it had that name, but obviously not, because it really did puff up as well, which I've never tried before, and so yeah, that one I think was a bit of a failure, but you can see the silver through it in places, and I'm going to try and use it somehow. I might see if I can colour it, maybe with some acrylics, or not sure if oxide inks would probably show up, or even some sprays, some shimmer sprays or something like that might show up on the black. And I'm not going to chuck it in the bin. And so I will let you know if anything becomes of that at the end of the video. And then this was the second one I did. And I wrapped one piece of tinfoil around a piece of card exactly the same, and I cut the edges off this time. Oh, I think I glued this one on. I glued this one on with just some just a cheapy old glue stick, which was easy to run over the card, and then I glued the tinfoil onto that one. And then I thought, let's make it a little bit coloured. The embossing folder, as you can see, was a coloured one, just to give you some ideas on colouring, I guess. And so yeah, this is what I did. Obviously not the same colours, but I got out my Distress Oxides and thought, yeah, I'll give that a bit of a swipe. And so I just swiped the whole pad in different places and mixed up the colours. I've got wilted violet, peacock feathers and worn lipstick. So that's what I did there. And then I thought it needs a little bit something darker to bring up. And I hadn't got chipped sapphire in an oxide pad, so I used my little re-inker that I've got. I haven't got the pad to put it on, but I did buy a re-inker because I really wanted chipped sapphire as a Distress Oxide. And so I just daubed some of it on my glass mat and then used one of these little finger dauber things, one of these. And so I just mixed it around on my mat, mixed it around on my glass mat, and then sort of daubed it and swiped it, and I thought that just brought an extra bit of depth to it. And you can also see that I've smeared a little bit around the edges because I thought I just want to be a bit messier. But I'm really quite pleased with the way that it turned out. I think it could, I really could have given it 2 or 3 layers of the tinfoil, because in some places as I've rubbed it, where the as you can see maybe there, where the card and tinfoil went through the dye, it's broken the surface, and so I've sort of just had to shove it back. Nobody would ever know, I don't think. But yeah, I think next time I do that, I'm going to have two or 3 different layers. And then to set the inks, because the oxides were never going to dry on tinfoil because there's nothing to absorb them, I sprinkled it with some clear embossing powder, some Cosmic Shimmer detailed embossing powder in Claire, and so then it stuck to the embossing powder, stuck to all the ink wherever wherever it was, and sealed it off really nicely. And so it's got a nice shiny feel to it, and I'm quite pleased. I hope you can see all the colours on that, and that's not just too glistening in the camera. Or maybe over there you can see it. Yeah, I think that's got a better. Sorry if that was off camera. Yeah, and so the next one I've tried is, just let me pop that away up there. The next one I've done is this one, and so I've just used, this is a lady, nosy lady with a dress going all the way around there and a couple of little butterflies, and then it's got like a cameo oval in the middle. And so I've run my piece of card through, and so it hasn't gone quite through, so I'll just run that through again, but I want to use that bit on the top here. And then I've run the tinfoil through. Now here I've got one piece that I've folded in half and then in half again, so I've got 4, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers here of the tinfoil. And let's see if you can, yeah, I think you can see that there. So with some pro markers, I've now coloured her hair yellow, and I've started to colour her dress pink. And I thought if I sort of coloured all around and then faded off the pinks into some lighter pinks until it goes into nothing, then colour the butterflies. And then I had a little disc, here we are, I've got a little disc that I've already cut. And then so pop that and stick that back on. That'll just fit into the there we are, that's just fitting in there into the shape underneath. And then I was going to stamp a sentiment onto that, and yeah, thought that would make a nice little card on its own with a sentiment and maybe a little bit of greenery or flowers or something coming in from the edge to match these swirls' hair. So that was the 3rd one I've tried, and so I'll finish colouring that off camera and bring that one back in a bit later. And now I've got lots of different, I've actually fished out about 10 or 12 different embossing folders, and this one's got keys on, I've got music, I've got just some frondy flowers, another one with a centre piece. Oh, I've got some little border ones, little squares. Here's the border. I've got a grass border which I thought might be nice, and then put that onto some blended inks. And then I've got one that is a sentiment stamp, which I was going to do with the tin foil as well and see how that worked out. And so I'm just going to have a little bit of a play, and I'll speed the video up and maybe stop it in places and cut some of the bits out that are not necessary. And so it stays a fairly shortish video, but I just wanted to share the experience of my experiments with you, and so that you know, if you fancy having a go, you can see what you can come up with and we can compare notes, sort of thing. So I think I'm just going to wrap some tin foil. Let me get rid of the oxide and yeah, so I've got a bit of tin foil here, so let's see what we can do with this centre. So I think if we back again and hope that has worked. Oh wow, that's really pretty. That looks good, doesn't it? I didn't get it in straight at all. But that doesn't matter. We can cut it straight, and we'll just have to put some silver ink on the edges, I think. But yeah, so let's grab a bit of scrap paper. And what colour should we do that? Should we do that? I think I'm going to try some VersaFine. I'm going to try some VersaFine and then go over it with a clear embossing powder, I think. Yeah, so I'm going to see if we can swipe this without... I think I might just open the paper out. A whole bit of scrap. And just see if we can swipe and get the happy birthday and the lines. Just lightly, very, very lightly. Oops, come back. See if we can get the H. And yeah, that's looking pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. And so then I will just sprinkle that with some so there it is done, and let's see. Well, the VersaFine black has almost disappeared. It just looks a bit like a darker grey now. That's disappointing, because normally clear over black would keep showing black. Let's have another go. I wonder why that disappears under the clear. Sorry if my head was in there. You see that? It looks really black. I'm not sure if that would actually dry if I left it. What do you think? Never tried it before. So it's now got VersaFine on top of clear embossing. Do you know what? I think I'm going to leave it and just see, give it a little while and see if that actually dries. Just make it a bit blacker in the middle. It's got lots of nice colour on it now, all the way through. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave that, give it a chance to dry, and then come back and see if I can rub it off. Anyway, I'll let you see that experiment too. So let's put that aside. So yeah, here we are back. This is the little happy birthday I did with the VersaFine and the clear embossing powder earlier. When I put the clear embossing powder onto the VersaFine Onyx Black, the colour disappeared, and so I said that I was going to just give it another coat of VersaFine. I swiped it again with VersaFine, and I was going to see if it was dry, if it would dry. It was never going to dry. I was just hoping there. And so what I've done is I put another layer of the clear embossing powder on top of it, and it's really worked this time. The black has stayed there, and yeah, it looks really excellent. I love it. So I'm going to just trim the top and bottom off, and then I can use that as a sentiment on a card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and now try to do my roses again. So instead of looking black as soot like this, I'm hoping that it's going to look more like this, with 2 layers of Versamark and 2 layers of clear embossing powder. So I will just get that all ready, and then I'll come back and we'll do it together. Okay, so I've got all the bits I think I need for us to do this one together and go through the whole of the process. I might speed some bits up so it doesn't, take up too much time. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to do, this is how, actually this is a little peek at the one that I've coloured, the black one that I thought I was going to have to throw in the bin. Yeah, I think I quite like it now it's all coloured. This is coloured with Distress Oxide inks, a few layers of them, and it's turned out really quite well. So I will be using that on a card, and I'll show you that at the end. But we're going to just try the black this time. So we're going to use the tinfoil, we're going to use VersaFine Onyx Black and 2 layers of that and 2 layers of the clear embossing. I am going to glue the tinfoil together and onto the paper, and we're going to use that same vintage rose embossing folder. And so you can fold your card any way you like. There's lots of examples of it doing these sorts of things on Pinterest and on the internet and things like that. And I'm not saying that I'm doing it right at all, because I haven't watched many of them to see how other people do it, but I thought what I'd do is I would just wrap my piece of tinfoil around my card and have 2 or 3 layers this time. And so I've creased it and tried to keep it smooth as I can, creased it, and then I'm going to fold it over again, so I've got 4 layers, and then I'm just going to trim around it, and while the card is in there, just trim around it, and so we've got a fairly squarish shape to work with, and leave that bit there for something else. And then I'm going to take the card out and then split this into 4 pieces. I could probably leave it in one fold, but when I did the last one, and where the edges were doubled and thick, and then I cut it to the size of card that I wanted, the edges weren't glued, so I had to re-glue them because they all sort of peeled apart, which is actually quite nice for a vintage sort of look. But we'll try it this way because this is an experimental video after all. So I have got 4 layers of tinfoil and a piece of card, and so I hope that's not glaring too much. I'll just shove them aside. So this is just a glue stick, gel glue stick, which I think comes from Lidl's, and I'm just going to run it around the edges and a few swipes down the middle so that it does stick together. It's quite sticky wicky. And I'm doing silver shiny side up. You can use shiny side up or the dull side up. Just have a go and see how it works out. I haven't done the dull side up yet. So that looks fairly... Just want to make sure the edges are all covered because I don't want the edges peeling up. And so shiny side up, let's stick that on there. Just get a little cloth. I'm just going to rub that down, gently rub that down. Got a few air bubbles under there. I'm hoping when that goes through the die machine that it will blow it out. Just got a little bit of glue in the middle there. I shall just have to clean that off. I think I'll use a little bit of surgical spirit. To give it a wipe over. Make sure there's no glue on there. And that will evaporate nice. I can clean my mat with it as well. As that share does get glue off. That's a little tip. If you've got glue stuck anywhere on your scissors or on your boards, on your glass mats or wherever, surgical spirit will get rid of it in a flash. Yeah, I know it's got a strong smell and some people don't like it, but actually I don't mind it. Right, so that looks like that's all. Right, okay. And then we're going to pop it into the folder. There's a little bit of stuck on the edge there. Right, make sure it is covering the pattern and not jammed right into the top. You need enough, just a little room to allow it to close, like that. And then just pop that through my big shot. There won't be a second. Sounds like I've got a bird in my machine singing away. Have a look at that. Oh, that's pretty, isn't it? That's really nice. Look at that. Oh, that's a nice one. I think that's my best impression yet. So 4 layers and the glue. Yeah, that looks really like that. Really like that. Okay, so let's just pop that aside. And so I'll grab a piece of scrap paper and we'll get started. And so, which is the right way? Which is the right way up? 2 roses to there, just like that. And so we're going to start off by swiping with some VersaFine ink because I still haven't got any stays on, and so this is just an alternative that I'm trying to see if it works, and hopefully after my little testers on that happy birthday example, I'm hoping it's going to work. Oh, look at that, that's lovely. So just put as much or as little on as you want to. Just cover all the raised. You can just give it a dab if you want to have it a little bit thicker in places, or give it a swipe. As long as you don't swipe too hard. Oh, I've got a bit there which has gone right the way through. Oh, I think that looks really nice. That little bit there has just gone. Don't know if we can just, yeah, let's give that a little wipe off. Hang on, let's get my little cloth in. There you go. So that's with, there we are, that's with one swipe of the pad. Now when I did it before and put the clear embossing powder on, the black totally disappeared. So we'll see what happens to this. So I'm just going to cover it with clear detailed embossing powder. So you can use whatever make you've got. None of this needs to be the same as what I've got. And give it a little tap. I'm just going to flick it on the back to make sure, get rid of any loose. Yeah, that looks like it's got a good covering. Pop that back in here. Oops, got a bit of black in there, I'll have to pick that out in a minute. And then, oops, I think I've just touched that with the corner of the paper. Right, and I'll get my heat gun heated up. So any sort of heat gun like this would be fine. Hair dryers are not strong enough, so if you haven't yet got a heat gun for heat embossing, then they're not very expensive. I think they're around about £10 or just under £10 in places. But give it a good heat up, let it go for about 30-40 seconds until you can see that it's getting red inside, and then you'll get a nice heat. And the benefit of that is that your paper won't warp. If you try and heat the embossing powder with just a warm heat gun, it tends to make the paper warp, because you want a nice quick blast that's going to do it in a flash, really. So look in there, yes, it's getting very orange and it's getting extremely hot on my hand. So let's have a little look. Just give it a little wave and you'll see it start to melt. Don't know if you'll be able to see it melting in the camera, but it's starting now, and I can see that the black is starting to show through and the clear embossing is melting. And you can follow the twinkle across the, just to make sure that you get it all melted, and you don't make sure there's nothing that's still sticky. And then I'm just going to give it a little heat from the back. You can still see there's some still melting. Changing colour as I go. There we are. So that actually looks really good with one coat, doesn't it? You can see the black. Hopefully you can catch the black that's been spread over the top, and that is now absolutely dry. Just going to see if there's any sticky embossing powder anywhere that's not quite melted. No, that feels good. Oh heck, no, there's a bit there. That's not quite done, just there. So quickly just do that. Just let that cool off so I don't burn my fingers. If you just rub it, should all be nice and smooth and shiny and silky. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's one. That's really excellent. I think that looks smashing. Really does look smashing. With just one coat. Got a little buckle in there. I think that's possibly the glue that I've heated up, and hopefully just press it, it will all go down again. It does look like it's going down, doesn't it? A little bit of dry powder on the edge there. Yeah, I don't know whether I need to give that another coat, you know. Don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to leave it. It's less is more job, I think. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Just is caught a little bit darker over the two big roses there. But yeah, there's lots of black, so I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to do another one. So as easy as that. It took me about 5 minutes or so, didn't it? But then you can do what you want with that now. You can stick it on, trim it up. I'm just going to trim that little top bit off because I've got a bit of a gap at the top and a bit of a gap at the bottom, so I'll just trim that off. Now I tried to use my Stampin' Up trimmer, which is a blade that you pull through, and it just rocked the tinfoil up, and so it's definitely a scissor job or a guillotine. That's the word I was looking for, or a guillotine, so that you can trim your edges up, and then I shall put that onto a card and come back. What does that look like on there? Does that look right? Oh, it doesn't look too bad, does it? Oh, I think that might. This is the happy birthday one we did earlier in the tutorial. Do you know what? I think that will go quite well on there. So I'm just going to find a base for it and pop it onto a card base, and then that will be my card finished. And I think that is absolutely terrific. So if you don't have to have stays on, you can have VersaFine, which we know is not going to dry because it's not going to dry on the tinfoil, but you can seal it over with some clear embossing powder, which is what I did with this one. I sealed this black puff embossing powder over and then put some clear embossing powder on the top to seal the ink. This one is the butterflies, which is I think that's my favourite. And that was the same. That was done with a number of oxides, you might remember, and we sealed that one with clear embossing powder too. And so they're all been heat embossed, and along with that little sentiment there. And so I'm going to, oh, I had another one, didn't I? What have I done? Here we are. I did finish this one off. I think I've shown you this already. So there's that one. So this one's now completely finished. So this one's done with alcohol inks, and I think that worked really very well. I've coloured in all that with Pro markers. This one was done with this Antique Rose embossing folder, and then I put on some Versamark, just ordinary embossing ink. No, it wasn't Versamark, it was a cheaper one, which was a bit soft, and so it had covered the whole page. Then when I put the black powder on, it did cover all the background, because the Versamark, or the embossing ink had gone everywhere instead of just over the top like this black did here. And then to top it all, when I put the black embossing powder on, I realised that it was a puffy up one, and so that raised. But I thought I was going to have to throw it in the bin, and I didn't. I coloured that in with a little bud with some Distress Oxide inks, and then sealed it over the top with some Claire embossing powder. And this one, you've just seen me do that. That was done with the Versafine. This Happy Birthday was done with the Versafine and covered it with the Claire. And then, as I said, this one was done with oxide ink. So I think my experiment today has turned out really well. It's shown that you don't just have to use StazOn. It's shown that we can use other mediums. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the outcome of this video. So hopefully you have picked up some tips today, and it's something that you will go ahead and try. So easy, any embossing folder, any of the medium, any of the inks you've got, as long as you've got some Claire embossing powder, you can seal your inks in. If you've got alcohol ink pens, then you don't need anything to seal that in at all. That is just let it dry, and there is just nothing coming off there whatsoever. And so thank you very, very much for watching this tutorial. And I do hope that you go away and have a go, and then let me know what you get up to. Leave me some comments, let me know what you think, and I'd love you to give me a like. It's really nice to get some feedback and find out what people like and what they don't. And then if you've enjoyed what you've watched today, please pop the subscribe button, tap the subscribe button, and subscribe to my channel, and then you'll be able to see any of the videos that I put up in the future. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.